Well, good morning. And having dashed upstairs from the television studio, I'm a bit out of breath. But anyway, we were well on to the way of getting into a rant this morning, and when our time ran out, where on earth 15 minutes goes, I have no idea. We've got just a little bit longer. And that, by the way, is Brightly Burning Fire, with the art of escapism. That's the introduction to our programme. And we are Rouser Radio, broadcasting out of Lewes in East Sussex, UK, because there is a Lewes, East Sussex, in the United States. And if there's anybody listening there, welcome. We really embrace you. But I know that we do have listenership in Canada and we have listenership in the States. But if some of you are from Lewes, Delaware, then we're very happy to have you. But we really are geared towards Lewes in East Sussex and a number of the associated tiny towns, from Hastings to Battle, to Eastbourne, to Newhaven, to Seaford, to Lewes, to Gatwick, to where else? Uckfield, and Tunbridge Wells, and several other communities in between. That's who we're trying to serve. We're slowly growing, but we are aware that we've got an international audience. And I hope that some of the things that we have to face ring a bell, because there are plenty of things that we find from overseas that are examples that other people are struggling with the similar sort of thing that we are. And one of those things that came to light, because we are local and not parochial, is a survey by Harvard University. Mr. Harvard married a lady from Ringmer and was married on the outskirts of Lewes in a little church in Malling, if I pronounce that correctly. I keep on hearing all sorts of people say Malling. It's difficult sometimes to know how to pronounce local names, because they're called so many different things by very, very local communities. Anyway, Mr. Harvard married a lady from Ringmer before setting out back to the United States and founding the famous university. But the famous university has done a survey about the shrinkage of local media, which continues apace. There is some considerable concern being expressed at international level that less and less attention is paid to local issues, and that while the internet is filling some of the gap with sites like the Huffington Post and so on, it's really replicating what the big boys would have done, rather than looking in detail at local councils and local organisations and local governance. And that's really what the Harvard people are saying, is you need a very close and detailed look, because if you don't have that, councils run riot. They spend money, so therefore they have to raise their taxes, their council tax. They are inefficient, which means they need more money to do less work. And all in all, the whole thing is a disaster area, and a castle built on sand and about to come tumbling down. And I posed the question, and posed it this morning, that is, in fact, the whole thing going to come tumbling down. First of all, Boris Johnson made a speech 3 or 4 weeks ago. Primarily, he was having a go at Theresa May, because he's setting out his stall for a leadership challenge. And the word out of Westminster is that Theresa May is going to step down in the summer, and that she's determined that Boris will not follow her, and that she's therefore plotting and scheming to make sure that whoever stands for the Conservative leadership will be handpicked by her, and presumably will then follow her policies. I find that a bit disturbing, but there we are. That's the way politics is played. And I'm not going to change it overnight, so why try? Instead, what I am going to try and do is to join the growing number of small groups, tiny little groups, who are trying to keep an eye on the local council, Lewes District Council. One of those is Lewes Eye. I don't know who they are. I haven't met them yet. I'm putting out the feelers to have a chat. But whoever they are, have got a background in good investigative journalism, because they come up with some stuff that is quite remarkable. But some little while ago, they asked the question, which we think has to be asked on a daily basis: is the district council, Lewes District Council, falling apart? Because it was a good council at one time, and I can remember when we had a very, very good chief executive in Lewes, and of course they all get old, and away they go, and we never know what we're going to get in place. But whoever it is, they decided they needed more money and less cost. Noble in some ways, but the answer was to merge with Eastbourne, and what a disaster that has turned out to be. They said that they were going to make savings of, $2.5 million? Well, they don't stand a chance, because what has happened to Lewes District Council is that, first of all, the efficiency has gone. Press 1, press 2, press 3. There is a little story in your second edition of Town and County, which has started to come through the letterboxes from the Royal Mail this last day or two, and will continue throughout the week, depending on where you live. But there's a story about how to try not to get through to Lewes District Council, and it's very true. Their phone system is in a dreadful mess. Their computer system, they admitted, or at least let's put it this way, the girls, who are very charming and lovely people when you go into the council offices, but they are what they are. They're the public face, but they're receptionists. And they admitted that the computer system means that payments and that sort of thing are 7 to 8 weeks old, delayed, because the computer system isn't working properly. And the unfortunate thing is that as the computer system isn't working properly, then people inside get frustrated as well as outside. And so there has been a fair rate of wastage, or people leaving, which is exactly what the council wanted. But they haven't trained anybody to take over the responsibilities of some of these people, some of the experts. So, for instance, I went to, quite rightly, I followed the instructions. I went down to ask questions of the person in charge of the council tax, and it was a lovely lady. She was nice to chat to. But she hadn't got a box to tick for my problem, so she couldn't solve it. That's the expert that she was. And she was an expert, supposedly, in advising on council tax. What happened? I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter as instructed by this lady. Didn't get an answer. No. The computers are too busy being delayed to get an answer. And then suddenly I get 3 letters all at once, which contradict each other, which didn't give me any advice whatsoever, and just simply up my council tax. Well, I'm sorry, chaps, that is just not acceptable, and it shows what's happening to the efficiency of the local council. Now, some of these things should come under scrutiny, and one of the politicians that I know said there is a scrutiny committee, and that they ask the officials to come in to they ask the officials to come appear before them and explain some things. And the last scrutiny committee, or at least the last one that's been reported to me, was why is the telephone system so bad why doesn't it work efficiently? And some official came in and said, "Oh, terribly sorry about that, chaps. Yeah, we'll do something about it." Well, that was some weeks ago, and nothing has been done about it so far. The trouble is that the councillors seem to be toothless. Some of them that work very hard at trying to get to answers and so on and so forth. And I know there are some that are considered by the executive, as it were, as being a pain in the butt because they ask questions and they poke around. But the system is Sir Humphrey's system. The executive are able to twist the politicians around their little finger, and what they don't want to tell them, they don't. And that's why we are being sued. I say we. Lewes District Council is being sued for £11.5 million because of the land sale, which was controversial at the time when it was first mooted, but no information was given out. No scrutiny committee asked what was going on. It was a combination of elected officials and executive officials who were involved in the thing. And it seems to me that, once again, what happens is the executives scurry to try and divert things going before a court, because that's where things will come out impartially. That's where people with a grievance can have their say. They don't like that, because they know that in many instances they are the people that are culpable. They're the people that have made a mistake. And for it to come out in open court is an embarrassment. Well, I think there's an awful lot going to come out in open court unless they can come up with £11.5 million and pay off the company that is suing them. But it's all to do with these 49 sites, for which there was little or no consultation, and what consultation there was didn't really give the facts as they were. And it's turned into an absolute disaster, because, as the Lewis Eye people demonstrate, for £6 they could have done a little search and they could have found that some of the sites that they were going to sell were not fit for purpose. You can't build on them for a variety of reasons, but they were being sold for houses and flats and that sort of thing. I mean, it defies the imagination that grown people could get themselves into such a muck, but they have. They have, and that makes it a very sad day indeed. And Bensound has got a piece of music which we can play called Sad Day. Sad Day from Bensound.